your Bible tonight, if you will, to the book of Psalms, Psalms chapter 90. Psalms chapter 90, if you will. And we'll read a few verses, then preach something entirely different. No, I was just kidding. I have been in services where preachers did that. However, they'd read a verse, and then we'd leave from there, never to return. But we're going to try not to do that, all right? Try not to do that. Psalms chapter 90, if you will. I want to begin reading in verse 9. If you've been to a lot of funerals, you've heard these verses probably used sometime, somehow at a funeral. But I'm not preaching a funeral tonight, okay? So, verse 9, the Bible says, "For all our days are passed away in thy wrath. We spend our years as a tale that is told. The days of our years are 80 years and 10. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength, labor, and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Who knoweth the power of thine anger? Even according to thy fears, so is thy watch. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." Like I said, I'm not preaching funeral night. Instead, I want to use them for a life application. Talk to you about your life just a little bit rather than death. And won't you notice there in verse 12? Verse 12, we have an admonition. That admonition is that we are to number our days. All right? Now, obviously, you can only do that when you're alive. Okay? Amen. So, we're going to number our days. And I got to thinking about it and about this particular situation in my own life. So this morning I did a real quick calculation, which means it could definitely not be exactly perfect, all right? But I came up with, if my addition and everything is right, that I've been alive for 23,206 days. 23,206 days. It would have been better if somebody hadn't said, "Woo," all right? Because I think it's Mom, and look how many days you've been alive. But we won't go there, all right? 23,206. Now, I'm sure the kids and teens, they go, "Whoa," all right? Well, wait a minute, all right? From my end, it doesn't seem like all that much. When I look back on it, it doesn't seem like such a big number. But I want to ask you tonight, what's the benefit of numbering your days? Why? You know, we number our days, and we number things for different reasons. And we want to talk about that and relate them to numbering our days in our lives. And I think, first of all, we number our days. We number things, not just our days, but we number things to gain a perspective, if you will. And I especially want to look at it in our days. Look in, if you're in Psalms 90, put your hand back at Psalms 89, and then go over to Ecclesiastes 3, but don't lose your place there in Psalms 89. Why don't you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11, the Bible says, "He hath made everything beautiful in his time." I want you to notice that. He had made everything beautiful in his time. All right? His time. Go back then to Psalms chapter 89. Psalms chapter 89, look at verse 47. Verse 47 says, "Remember how short my time is." Remember how short my time is. Two different times. His time and my time. His time's God's time. You know, he's got a completely different perspective on time than we do. Completely different perspective. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 8 says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day." All right? 1,000 years is one day. That's not the way we see time, all right? We don't look at it. Now you say, "Well, boy, I've had some long days." You ever felt like they were 1,000 years? No, you may have had some long days. You said, "Boy, I've spent some long days." Maybe even spent some long nights, but they weren't that long. So the Lord looks at time, and his view, his perspective on time is not our perspective, because he's doing things in his time. In his time. But on the other hand, when we talk about my time, we start talking about my time, our own time, we're usually pretty conscious of time. We live by stupid clocks. all right? We pretty much live by them. We're guided by them. I was talking to my daughter today at lunch. If she calls, she usually calls me during her lunch hour, and she'll be out walking in downtown in Oklahoma City, and she'll call me up. She's telling me today, man, today's dragging, just dragging. Said don't have hardly any work to do, and said, man, I hate it like this. Said I just assume they send me home, not pay me. I would just rather not be there. It's so dull, and it seems like it takes forever to get the day through. But on the other hand, when you get up in the morning and you've got to be at work, have you noticed that time never drags?
Yes, sir.
It never drags. I've gotten up, good time in advance of when I needed to be anywhere. And I thought, well, I can just kind of lollygag around, take my own time. And it seemed like no time, and I look at the clock and I go, run, you got to get there, So we live by that clock. But when it comes to my time, we can be pretty selfish. We can be pretty selfish. We don't want to share it because it's my time. It's my time. While God measures times in thousands of years, we mortals measure it in hours and minutes. And it seems like that can go on. But the numbering of those years, the numbering of our days allows us to gain a perspective that we would not have any other way. But we learn to number those days and number those days that go by. Not only do we gain perspective by numbering things, but we also, I think, number things that we recognize as being precious. As being precious. Those things that are precious to us. For instance, have you ever asked anybody how many kids they have? And have them say, oh, we got a half dozen or so. Well, they don't do that. We know exactly how many. Well, I got 2, or I've got 5. I've got 10. And, you know exactly, and we number those, and this is my number 1, and this is my number 2, and this is number 3. I've heard people introduce their kids that way. We number why? Well, we recognize the preciousness of it. Those things that are real precious to us, and we collect stuff that's real precious to us, and we can tell them how many exactly we've got, right? Exactly how many, if it's something that's really, really precious to us. I went back over Labor Day. My wife and I went up to see my daughter and her husband, and had Labor Day, and we were talking about what we were going to do. I said, well, I want to go to Pops. And Pops is a place up there right outside Oklahoma City. It's got all kinds of cool belly washers, all right? All kinds of different, carbonated beverages, if you will. And I go through there, and I'll get some kind that I like that you can't get anywhere else, or that I know of, all right? And you say, well, what? Well, that classic drink, Kickapoo Joy Juice, all right? And I honestly really didn't remember, but I was reading on the bottle. That it's named for something that comes out of a Little Abner comic strip, all right? And so I got those. Now I know exactly how many I've got, okay? I've only got 1 left, all right? I know that, but I know exactly how many I have. You said you want to share. Absolutely not. Don't want to do that. But I know exactly because they're precious. I really like those things, all right? And it's just one of those deals. Things that are precious to us, we number, all right? We number them. We know how many we've got. We know how many we've got. We number them. We say, man, I'm a 2-car family. We got 2 cars. Those are precious to us. They're precious to us. We count money because it's precious. We know how much money we got. Now, I'll tell you, we ought to number our years. We ought to number our days because they ought to be precious to us. There's not a person in the world that knows the answer to the question that's asked in 2 Samuel 19, verse 34. And probably if I were to ask you what question is asked there, none of you even know the question. But you've heard it. Now, if I'll tell you, is Barzillai asked it, so that helped, right? Man, all right, we just got to turn there, all right? 2 Samuel chapter 19. There's a question there. There's not a man on this earth that knows the answer to this question. I mean, none. That's why we need to number our days, because they ought to be precious to us. 2 Samuel chapter 19, verse 34, all right? 2 Samuel chapter 19, verse 34, and Barzillai said unto the king, How long have I to live, that I should go up with the king unto Jerusalem? How long have I to live? You ever ponder that? You ever thought about it? You say, Preacher, I'm not as old as you are, so I ain't worried about it. Well, I got news for you. I thought about how old I'd live to be long before I was this age right now. I wonder. I just wonder how long will I live? Well, we don't know. We don't know. You know, people said all kinds of things. If you knew tomorrow was the last day that you were going to live, what would you do with it? What would you do with it? Would you do anything different than you've already planned? I don't know. You say, well, I'd try to find out where I was going to die, and I'd stay away from that place, right? Hey, you know what? You and I ought to consider the time that we have as precious, because we have no idea how long we have to live. We don't have any idea. There's two little kiddos up in the nursery back here. One of them is my granddaughter. She's not a year old. Boy, I hope she lives to be a long, long time. But the truth of the matter is, nobody here knows that. We don't know that. We don't know that. We have no idea how long we have to live. We need to consider, and if we'll number our days, we'll to do it because they're precious. They're precious. So we number things to help with the perspective. We number things that are precious to us. But we also number things just to mark the passage of them, all right? Just to mark the passage. Have you ever sat and here comes a train and you're stopped by the train? You ever counted the cars on the train as they went by? You know, I do it hoping it won't be very many, and hoping, well, if I count them, it'll seem like they're faster, all right? And they'll get out of the way quicker. We number things to do it. Here's a fellow in a jail cell, and he gets something and he scratches a mark on the wall. What is he doing? Well, he's marking the passage of time. He's marking that down, and he's numbering those days. He's numbering those days because he knows how long he's got to be in there, and begins to mark them off there. And we number those things. We keep track of birthdays to mark how many years have passed during the lifetime of an individual. We keep that down. If you're a kid, people ask you how old you are. Little child will say, I'm 6.5. I can remember telling people I'm 7, going on 8, soon be 9. I don't do that anymore. Okay, because I'm not that excited about being anymore. Now, I'm not worried about it, but I'm not excited about it. Hey, I used to, you had birthdays, you know, man, there was a candle, there was a cake, there were presents. Now there's just, you're having another birthday. You know, it's no big deal. No big deal. But we do those things, we count those to mark the passage of time. Now let me real quickly, just for a few minutes tonight, make a biblical application and to apply this. Are you back? Can you get back to Psalms chapter 9? I want you to get back to Psalms chapter 9. Because I've talked about why people number things. Some people number things because of the order. They want things in a certain order, so they'll be numbered. We number books in the library, so they'll be, you know, we can find them. And I don't do that in my personal library. I put them where I want them to be, and I didn't go hunt for them, all right? And I say, I think I know what it is. And but look at verse 12 again, would you? So teach us to number our days. Why? That we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. So teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Let's go back to the three things I said people number things for. I said it's a matter of perspective. Now, a matter of perspective. I mentioned to you there's his time and there's my time. And every one of us have His time and my time. But the problem is we wrestle with His time and my time. We wrestle with God over that matter, all right? A good perspective on time should get us to number our days and order to cause us to allow more of my time to be His time. That we could look at my time and put it to more use because it would be His time. And it would be, Lord, if you want more of my time, that's not a problem. But boy, the more confused and the more we get along in our lives nowadays, and especially in this country and really the whole world nowadays, people have the idea, man, I've got more time for me. I've got more time for me. There was a day back I remember when I was a kid, man, an 8-hour workday was a dream job. That was a dream job. And a 40-hour work week, that was a dream job. But now, instead of working 5 days a week, people got it cut to 4 days a week. And then have 3 days off. And we've got more time for me. But I've noticed the more time that people get, the less time they want to give God. It's just amazing. You know, the more we are, here we are in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And here we are in the land that used to really honor God. And boy, there was churches everywhere. There's still churches everywhere. It's just amazing how little time they're open anymore.
Amen.
Just amazing how little time they're open. I mean, used to, every church had Sunday morning, Sunday night, and at least one night during the week. Every church did. Hey, I'm not talking about Baptist churches. I'm talking about every kind of church, all right? Now, I'm not sure about the Catholic Church. Not that familiar, probably not. But every other church, man, it was Sunday morning, Sunday night. Sunday was the Lord's Day. There was at least 2 services, and there was a service one night during the week. Man, you look today in this day of labor-saving devices, shorter work weeks, and all of that, and less time for God.
Amen.
Less time for God. Hey, I mentioned to you before, at one time I was at a deal where the guy that was my wife's boss said to me, he said, I think it was on the Sunday afternoon, we went somewhere, and they were there, some kind of anniversary celebration, and something was said about we've got to get back to church tonight. And he made this statement, I sure was glad when we quit having Sunday night service. We don't have time for God. Now, why? Well, we've got the wrong perspective on numbering our years. You know, I think probably a big part of that problem is we number our years, and the only years we see as important is the ones we're going to spend on this earth. It's those days here. We've got the wrong perspective, folks. Now remember what I said? He said, teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Amen. Wisdom says, you know what? If I can, I ought to give him more time. I ought to give him more time. I ought not to hold it away from him. I can remember Mom telling about when she was a young girl and even a young married lady. It was nothing unusual to have 2-week-long revivals. 2-week-long revivals. Man, I'm going to tell you, if you tried to have a 2-week-long revival, most people would look at the preacher like you have lost your mind. You've just lost your mind. Now, I'm not talking about the Wednesday night crowd. Well, most of the Wednesday night crowd. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the Wednesday night crowd. But I mean, you take the average Sunday morning service, and the Sunday morning folks come to church. We're going to have special services. We're going to have a revival. We're going to go for 2 weeks. I'll see you next Sunday, preacher. We don't have time for God. You see, our wisdom, if we learn to number our days, you know, you begin to number your days, you begin to look and you think about here and eternity. Now, how important is my time as opposed to his time? His time. Listen, apply our hearts unto wisdom. Let's get the right perspective on this thing in my time, in God's time. But not only that, think about that which is precious. That which is precious. The wise man will count the days and realize I need to take every day I've got and use it wisely. Use it wisely. Because the truth of the matter is, I don't have that many. Now, Sarah over here, if she found out, or Jake over here said, "Preacher, you 23,000 days over the 20, that's a ton of," yeah, but wait a minute, they'll go by real quick. For you too. For you too. They'll be gone. We need to take those days, we need to use them wisely. Invest them. Ephesians 5:16 says we're to redeem the time because the days are evil. Invest the time. Invest the time. If you'd have been given $10,000, all right, if you'd have been given $10,000, those of you who are old enough that this will work for you, if you'd have been given $10,000 20 years ago and knew then what you know now, how much money could you have? You said, boy, I would have invested that money. Well, what you have tomorrow is one day.
Right.
Use it wisely.
Amen.
Use it wisely, all right? Use it to serve God. Use it to love your family. Use it to love your family. You know, most of us have spent days here and there where we've been aggravated at a husband or a wife. And we spent that day pouting because mad, not speaking to you, I'm mad. We've done that. Everybody's trying to sit still and not nod your head, aren't you? Yeah, I can tell that. We sit there, we not like to do it, but we spent days like that. Did you ever stop and think about what a lousy way that was to take that day?
Amen.
What a lousy was that way to use it, all right? Hey, use it wisely. Don't use it. Say, man, I'll figure a way to get even. What kind of way is that to spend your day? Hey, spend your day wisely. Spend it serving God. Spend it loving your family. Spend it as a servant.
Amen.
Doing something that's going to count. Doing something that's going to count. Use it wisely. Remember, it says we number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Wisdom would tell you, you know what? Those days are precious. Those days we've got are precious days. Are you like me? I've got a couple of pictures in my office of my kids. Now, and there's one especially that comes to mind, and I look at those pictures. They're not necessarily the wonderful studio quality, just pictures that were made. And I look back and I think of the days in the lives of my kids, and I wonder, boy, did they use all them wisely like I should have? Did I use them wisely? If we learn to number our days, wisdom would say they're precious. They're precious. Use them wisely. Hey, number 3, what a challenge to those of us. We number things to mark their passing. What a challenge it is for us that waste so much time. Waste so much time. Now, once it's gone, it is gone. There are some things you can get back, but you can't get back a moment. You cannot get back a moment of time. Once it's used, it's used. You'll never be able to reclaim even 1 second. Wisdom looks at those days that are trickling by and says, you know what? I better use them. I better not waste them. I better not waste them on frivolous stuff. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And yeah, it was. It was last night out and visiting. And a guy, he had his phone, and I said, yeah, I heard it making noise. He said, that's a stupid game. And I said, I not heard it. I said, what is it? He said, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Now wait a minute, okay? In defense, of people that might play computer games. I'm not saying to you that every time you play a game is a waste of time. But wait a minute. Have you ever sat down and began to take all the time that you use doing stuff like that? How much time do we waste? How much time is wasted by people today on a cell phone because they've got it and it's there and it distracts them and they waste time? Look, you've got a few hours. What are you going to do with it? There's a show on television that sometimes I enjoy looking at, and it's about folks living way up north in Alaska, and in those days of winter, 4 hours of sunlight. 4 hours of sunlight. And every one of them says, man, you have to use those hours. And he said, you have to get out and get going and use those. You only got 4 hours of sunlight. And so whatever you're going to try to do that you need light for, you better get out there and get after it. It's only 4 hours. They have to use it. Hey, 35 degrees below zero. It's a good reason to live in Texas, all right? But, I mean, you know, the frigid cold, but you can't stay in because of cold because you got to use what daylight hours you got. Well, you know what? If we'd learned to number our days, wouldn't it help us to not waste them? Wouldn't it help us to not waste them? Just let them get frittered away. Well, they're gone. They're gone. Nothing accomplished, nothing done that could have been just wasted. I want to ask you tonight, have you numbered enough days to have the wisdom to give those days to God? To give Him part of your time? You numbered enough of those days and counted them up and realized, you know what? It's short. It's short. I think the longest years of life are the years you're in school, especially if you're like me and you didn't like school. Man, August or September comes, school starts, and it drags until you get out of school. In summer, gone. Just like that. Then you're back in school. Right, Jake, you're with me there, right? Okay, that's the way I felt about school. Here I am back in school again. Great, you know. I mentioned to you that my favorite day of school was the last day of school. You know, that was always my favorite every year. But, I mean, those days seem like they drug along. But I'll tell you something. You're going to find, Jake, you're going to find that those years are going to be gone real quick. You're going to find, it may not seem like it now, but they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone. I remember when I was in high school and graduating, I was thinking, you know, I'm going to come back to visit my old high school, visit my teachers. And so I graduated, the last day of school was in late May of 1972. And I went back to visit school. And never have gone back. Never been back in the doors of the building since then. And it just doesn't work that way. But you look back, it's gone. Gone. Listen, have you numbered your days enough to have the wisdom to take some of your time and give it to God? Have you numbered those days enough to have the wisdom that take the days God gives you and to use them wisely and not to waste them? Lord, teach us to number our days. Number our days. Because they're passing. Number them to keep track of them. Number them and say, hey, they're precious. And I'm going to use as many of them as I can. Going to make use of them. I don't want to waste them. Don't want to let them get away. I don't want to get caught up, though, in the passage of time thinking, well, I got to have more time for me. I want to be careful. Because one of these days you're going to stand before God. And it's going to be what you do with those days I gave you. What you do with those days. Lord, teach us to number our days. Heavenly Father, Lord, I come to you tonight and ask you to help us. Lord, that we would learn to number our days. Lord, that we could number those days so we could apply our hearts unto wisdom. We'd be wise enough, Lord, to take my time and just be willing to say, Lord, my time's your time. Use it any way you please. we'd be wise, Lord, to use the time we have to serve you, to love our family, to love our friends, Lord, to be a servant for others. Lord, that we'd not waste our life, waste our days, waste our years, and look back later and think, man, I didn't do much because I wasted so much. Lord, help us tonight. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you. It's good to have you tonight.